Wanted to explain today a little bit about the differences between full animation and limited animation. And I'm guessing you guys have seen old Disney films from way, way back. And they were done in a technique called full animation, character animation, in which we have an animation piece of paper like this, and the guy's already done a storyboard drawing. The layout guy has done the layout showing the animator what to move where. And so he's got a character, and he's got all his personality in this character. And every time that character moves, there's a whole nother sheet of paper and a whole nother drawing of the character being put down on the pegs on that clean sheet of paper. And every time they do that, they have to send that on down the next department, assistant animation in betweening. Let's say he's wearing and those people then have to do their job on this drawing and set of drawings. And that costs money, having all those people do all that extra work to make this animation look really great. And if this is drawing 1 and then drawing 5 over here, and the guy's turning his head, maybe he's not turning his head, maybe he's just tilting his head down, closing his eyes. Every time somebody else touches that drawing to do the next step, that's money. And he puts his arms up like this to his anticipation. That's money the producer has to spend to get this picture done and out the door to the next departments. And every time you spend money, the producer says, oh, we're going broke doing this. And let's say his next drawing is 7, and now he's all smiles and looking up. Head's up even higher. Big smile. And it just goes on, all this drawing. And after it's gone to the assistant, now it's going to ink and paint. And back in those days, they were actually putting a sheet of celluloid over the drawing and tracing it with an ink pen or an ink brush, a Crowquill pen. That could be, they could use a brush, which looks like this, dipped into a jar of ink, which looked like this. There's a drop of ink there. Then they trace it, or they could use a Crowquill pen, which looked like this. Had a hole in the back there. That got dipped into the jar of ink. And they carefully, artistically trace this drawing onto an animation cell. And then another one has to be done for this drawing, another cell, and another cell for this drawing. Plus it's in between, so there's drawings 2, 3, and 4 here, and drawing 6 in between here. Now we've got 7 cells that have to be inked. They also have to be painted, which are these little plastic containers of paint. And they have a little plastic lid on the end like this that folds down. And they're painted with a brush that looks like this, dipped into the paint. And so they're painting all these cells as they come their way. They have to be dried off. They have to have everything dried and sent on to the checking department, which is going to put them down on a plastic board like you've seen me use, and make sure that the drawings are just right. There's nothing interfering with the drawing, that they're clear, the paint is on just right. That it's not interfering with another drawing that's going to be down at the same time. And then from there, it's going to go to a camera department, which is going to put it underneath gigantic Mitchell camera, looking down, held up on an animation stand. It has this table here. It's got more pegs on it. It's a big, elaborate piece of machinery. There's a motor that makes the camera go up and down. There's a hand crank that makes these pegs go side to side. And there's top pegs on here to move it back around, and they go side to side. So there's all these people that have to be paid to do all of this work to make these cells under camera. After that, it's going to go to the lab. And there's this building in Hollywood. Kodak used to process all the film in town. And every day there's tons of people coming to Kodak with reels of film under their arm, get their project in. Then it comes back from Kodak and it goes to the editor, who's got a moviola that he's looking at with a bin with strips in the back, and it's put onto a reel. All this film, and they're going to look at it in this little window right above it, this little screen, and figure out, well, are there any mistakes in there? And they were looking at the same image that we just saw go through there. And there's a reel down here, and it's going up through this thing back here. It's this big machine. There's foot pedals at the bottom so that you can make it go, you can make it stop instantaneously. It's a very involved process doing all this stuff. And everybody that's touching this is getting paid. There's a film bin back here that's got all these strips of film hanging down. maybe even soundtracks. Before they make the film, somebody had to record soundtracks. There were people in a booth talking into a microphone. And saying their lines. After that, there was a guy that had to read the soundtrack, either on a moviola or another piece of equipment. This is one of the voice actors. The guy reads the track on the moviola and sends the track to, he's writing down everything on the sheets, the exposure sheets I've told you about, which are those big sheets of graph paper. And every word is broken down phonetically in the column over here. And he says, Ray, holds the R, then the A goes down a little longer, and it says Ray. Then a guy has to put in what mouth shapes there are. So that's an E and a D with a C in between. Hold the D mouth open wide. Go down to a C, B, and an A. All these people have to be paid to do all this stuff. So, and there were board guys and layout guys and writers before we even started animating. Well, what they did in TV in the 50s was figure out, instead of doing these animation moves, let's just do the one pose and hold that. So now we just have one cell with this guy like this, and then the cells that come after it are just his mouth moving or his arm moving instead of the entire cell. Now you've cut down on time spent painting. You've cut down time spent on drawing. There's just one cell that has to be painted instead of 7. There's 5 cells that have to be made for his mouth moves. That's all the checker has to look at. It gets to camera. There's just one cell with those so many mouths going up and down, open, close, open, close. That's all the camera guy has to shoot. No background moving. Camera doesn't move up and down. It's just held on that one drawing. By the time you get to the part where you're sending it to Kodak and coming back, you're looking at a film strip that just has one drawing with mouths moving up and down. And that's it. This and this are still the same. The guy still has to record the track, and the guy still has to read the sheets. But all of this has been cut way, way back. And so you're saving money. You're limiting the amount of drawings. You're limiting the amount of animation. You're saving money. With the computer, the guy is still recording the track, recording his voice, but we're no longer reading it on the sheets. We don't have camera. We don't have checking. We don't have ink and paint. We don't have layout. And we have digital animation, which is just puppeting usually the character because he's broken down into pieces. We don't have Kodak. We don't have film bins. We don't have a moviola. Everything changes. So all of this would have been the Disney way of doing everything back in the golden age. But just doing the one drawing is how we do limited TV animation, which comes down to just let's say it's a semi-close of a guy's face. Very simplistic art. All the mouths are separate. And he hardly moves, except maybe his hand is up to camera like that. This is limited animation. Just saving money, saving time, because time is money. The cells that you're making now are just this guy's mouth. And you're making one cell for that mouth, and another cell for the open mouth, and putting it down on top of that, which is going to be just his head. And his nose, but no mouth, because the mouth is separate. So that's basically the difference between full and limited animation. It's all money. In full animation, our character might do a lot of anticipation moves and overacting. He might turn his head the opposite direction like this and put his arms up like this for his anticipation. I put an arrow here, and his hair is back like that because he's turned so fast. And then he comes back and looks up with this big, big smile. And let's say he slowed into that, doing that move. There's his ear. And that these two become the full animation, and there's so many drawings in between. There might be a halfway one, and then here, and he might have slowed into that, so your chart looks like this, and then one in between, that might even be here, and then go to here, and then there might be an overshoot like this, settle back. Well, every one of those is drawings that have to be inked, painted, checked, shot under camera, sent to, and it's a lot of money there. So that's the difference between full animation and limited animation. How much money are you spending? What are you spending it on? In full animation, we might do a background for this, but the background for the next shot might be the same. This close-up will be the same background. So now the guy doesn't paint a separate background for this close-up. It's the same background as this medium shot. And you just figure how to field in on that background to make it work. If you're doing TV stuff like the old Hanna-Barbera Huckleberry Hound show, I think his mouth would be here. And I think his mouth was inside like that. And he would say, "Hey, y'all." And he had, I think he had a bow tie on. And his body like this. Tail up. So now they can make a separate head from the body and pop different heads on with different mouths if they want. Pop on different arms if they want. His arm might be totally inside like this. And the other arm up. You can have a separate one for his arms. And everything was just, how much money are we spending? I know this isn't on model, I'm doing it from memory, but you get the idea. Very simplistically done. That's our little introduction to differences between limited animation and full animation. So figure out which kind you want to do and where to spend your time, money, and energy. As always, keep drawing, and we'll see you next time.